I'm Shawn.
And I'm Mike, and you're listening to
Shawn and Mike Take a Hike.
Welcome to another episode of Shawn and Mike Take a Hike. What do you want to talk about today, Shawn?
Today, I would like to talk about journaling, which sounds nerdy. I am well aware. But the topic came up kind of for two reasons. One, we are starting to look ahead to 2025 now that we're in the year of our Lord 2025. We're in the middle of the winter. We are trying to have something to look forward to, like we talked about in our mental health episode. So we are getting to the point where we're starting to look forward to, like, what are we going to do this year, right?
Right.
In conjunction or in addition to that, I got a super cool gift from my work wife for Christmas.
I'm a little jealous.
Kind of sparked me to think about this topic at all. And full disclosure, I don't think we've done a superb job of journaling our trips.
No.
For the last couple of years. I feel like we should have done a better job. So I am officially giving the advice to new people. If you are starting your hiking, backpacking journey in life, start journaling from day one.
Yeah.
You will be so glad that you did.
Yep.
But yeah, so I thought we could talk about journaling, like what to journal, what to keep track of, what to make note of, how to go about it, that sort of stuff. I thought we could roll all of that into today's conversation.
Okay. So, when we first started, I didn't have an idea of, like, I've never been a journaler. I've never, like, kept a diary or a journal or anything like that.
Me neither.
I don't like tally my day at the end of, every day or whatever. When we did first start doing this, though, I am a spreadsheet nerd. So I created a spreadsheet of the trails that we were doing, the mileage and all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of spiraled. I haven't updated it in a little while, but I have all of our trips marked down or written and saved, so I can easily go back and add to the spreadsheet. But it keeps track of, like, how many miles were on the North Country Trail, how many were on the Manistee River Trail, how many were on this. So I have my own way of journaling without. It's just keeping, like, where, when, and what trail and what mile markers. It's not keeping track of the weather, what were the conditions like, what, all that kind of stuff. What mood was I in? All of that kind of stuff. I really think that coming down to it, I wish we would have been keeping track of a few more of those details.
Okay, and that's kind of where I'm coming to it from.
Yeah.
Like, I like our spreadsheet, don't get me wrong, and, like,
Right.
I'm super happy that you have kept track of that part of what we have done. Now that we are a little more experienced, I really wish we would have kept better track of other things other than just mileage. Like, when we started, mileage was really our thing.
Right.
And we wanted to make sure we were keeping track of, like, these are the mile markers of this trail that we have done so that we didn't redo those miles.
Yeah, not necessarily that redoing miles is a bad thing. It's just we are more of the mindset of we want to see new things and do new things.
Correct. Right. So, and I'm not saying that we have done anything wrong. I just think we maybe should have kept track of a few more things than we did. So, like, just as a piece of advice for new hikers or new backpackers, like, if you are just getting into it, this is more of a reflection on, I wish I would have done this, not so much we did this and this is what we're recommending, but more of like a, we fucked up. Like, do this. Don't screw up the same way that we screwed up. Like, really keep track of some of this stuff. Because now that we're in it a bit, there's some stuff I wish that we had logged from those first few trips so that I could remember. Because, like, I'm already forgetting what where were we when this happened, or what did we do, what happened, why did we wind up in this situation or whatever, and we don't have a log of that for us
Right.
to look back on. At the time you think, well, I'm always going to remember this, I'm never going to forget it, and it's like, okay, yeah, I do remember that thing. I don't remember the surrounding situation of that thing, or when was it,
Exactly.
or what led up to it. That's the part that my brain is not remembering.
Right. And I mean, it's just nice to be able to go back. I mean, everybody has, well, not everybody. We, those of us that are in a little bit of the older crowd have the shoebox full of old photos. They're not just
Right.
on your phone. So like you open that up every once in a while, you just kind of thumb through some of these pictures and like, oh man, it's like just put you right back in that situation and everything. It would be
That's
nice
funny.
to
Do
like,
all of us have our pictures in shoeboxes? Like, is that where everybody's pictures are? Because I
I mean,
totally have a shoebox full of
our
pictures.
parents' generation did albums, we did shoe boxes, and now they're on phones.
Yeah, right.
We had to wait 2 weeks for them to develop them at a store. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. It's just like that nostalgia. Like it just kind of takes you back to like right to that experience, right to that place of like, oh yeah, I do remember that. Like I really wish we had more of that, especially for our first trip.
Yeah. So let's talk about first, like, before we talk about what you're journaling, let's talk about methods to journal. So you and
Okay.
I have a spreadsheet because you and I are technology nerds, and we've made no
Right.
bones about that in any of our episodes. So, like, we have a shared online spreadsheet that we keep track of. We keep track of way too much stuff, like just everything in our personal lives. Mike and I, if there's coordination that is between Mike and I, we have an online spreadsheet that we
Yep.
share
Yep.
that we coordinate things through, because we are nerds. But that is totally an option. So, like, one of
Yep.
your options is whether it's like an iCloud spreadsheet, whether it's a Google Doc, whether it's like just an
Hmm.
Excel spreadsheet that you're sharing with a friend, or if you're just doing it on your own. Like, you, maybe it's just for your own personal stuff, so you've got your own personal spreadsheet or whatever. Totally an option.
Absolutely.
You can do like the old school way, pen and paper,
Yep.
like 3-ring bound notebook, college rule, keep track of it on paper. Totally an option. The thing that I now have in my life that prompted this conversation, or one of the things that prompted this conversation, is I got a gift, like I said, from my work wife. She got me an actual hiker's journal, which is a bound book with a place to record all of your hiking related things. Like,
Hmm.
it's a specific bound journal with like pre-printed things inside it, which we'll get to in a minute. So, like, that's an option. If none of those sound like your cup of tea, there are a myriad of apps that you can get
Oh
on your
yeah.
phone or your tablet or your Kindle or whatever that will do basically the same things but in digital form
Hmm.
for you. So those are kind of like your things, right? Like, that's the ways that you can do it. I'm not going to say one's better than the other. I mean, do you, Mike, have a personal? You like spreadsheets? You're a
Yeah.
spreadsheet guy in your daily life.
I like spreadsheets, but like the hiking journal that your work wife got you, I really like the concept of that because I think the reason why I've never really journaled in my entire life is because I don't know what to put, and that journal has a list of things, and it's just like, okay, it's like filling out like a little worksheet or whatever. It's like, okay, this is the date, this is the location, this is, where we did, how many miles, like all that kind of stuff. It kind of like guides you with what to put. Then it has an open forum thing on the back or whatever, so you can just write whatever you're feeling, but like it at
Right.
least gives you a starting point of like what to do. And so I really enjoyed that about the prefab things. I've never been like a creative writer or any of that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So like when it's just that people are just like just go right. And it's like, about what? So,
What this reminds me of, like, this is a larger, like, physical size larger than what I'm used to, but what it really reminds me of is, um so like in my daily life, I for years worked in network construction.
mhm,
And one of the things they teach you in network construction as an employee is to keep a daily log of, like, this is your footage, this was the weather, this is what you did that day, this was something weird that happened, just as a, like, cover your own ass if a boss ever comes and asks you, like, oh, where were you last Tuesday, what did you do, you can go back to your, like, daily logbook and be like, okay, well, last Tuesday, yeah, that was the day that it was 62 and raining, and yeah, we only did, you know, a half a mile of underground or whatever, but this is why, and yada yada yada. So this, like, hiking journal that I got
mhm,
really reminds me of a daily log that you would keep in the construction industry. I imagine other industries do it too, but
right.
that's what it reminds me of, like, from something from real life, you know,
Yeah.
similar sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, just as a way to, you forget. I mean, it's so
Mhm.
crazy how fast you forget things. And even though this, like, printed one doesn't specifically have spots for it, like, some of the things that I wish that you and I had kept track of were, we're to the point now where we're, like, getting new gear and things like that.
Oh, true. Yeah, I didn't think
I
about that.
wish I wish we had kept a log of, like, I tried this brand and I liked it for XYZ reasons.
Right.
Or my whatever broke on this trip, and I would or wouldn't buy it again because ABC happened with it. You
Right.
know,
Or
like,
or I
even that sort
remedied
of
that
stuff.
break by doing this, like, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you mentioned before one of the brands that you worked with, you had something that broke out on the trail. When you got back to civilization, you got a hold of their customer service. They sent you a new whatever piece.
Yep.
No questions asked, super easy, would get them again.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so now here it is. I'm going to pretend like it's a year later. I don't remember exactly when that happened. A year later, I remember you telling me that story. Could not tell you what brand that was or what piece of gear that was that happened to you
Yeah.
with. Like, I remember you being super happy with the interaction that you had with their customer service. I don't know what it was or what brand or whatever. Like, I feel like that is good stuff. We should be logging that because, like, 10 years from
Absolutely.
now, if we haven't bought anything else from that brand and we're looking for a new sleeping bag or a new tent or a new
Yep.
pad or whatever, if it's between option A and option B, we can look back in our notes and be like, well, that was the one. Option B is the same brand as that company I dealt with 10 years ago, and their customer service was awesome. Well, I'm buying option B then.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That's an amazing idea to have, to keep track of. That's an easy. I mean, back to my spreadsheets. That's an easy new column to add. Nerd. Uh,
It is an easy new column to add, but it's a column that we don't have, and it's not something we've been tracking.
right.
So, like,
Yep.
as this is what I'm saying, I'm recommending, like, don't do as we did, do as we recommend in this
Do as we
situation. Like,
regret.
right. Like, I'm saying, to, if you are new, these are the types of things. Like, if you are going to go on one backpacking trip, that's the only time you're ever going to do it. You're never going to do it again. It's like a one-off experience. Okay, keep a
Yeah.
journal just for your memories, right?
Right.
If you're going to be doing this for the next 10, 15, 20, 50 years, maybe keep track of some of these things, because it really will come back to, it might make a difference in your gear picks, or
Yep.
even, okay, so let's say maybe not even gear picks. Let's say you're keeping track of, like, um Mike and I went and we did the Manistee River Trail, and we loved the trail because it was all hard packed dirt, no sand, and fairly level.
Yep.
And 10 years from now, we're like, Mike and I are still talking about, man, I really loved that Manistee River Trail. Well, now we can look back and say, why did we love that trail so much? Well,
Yep.
it was all hard packed dirt. There was no sand and it was fairly level. So let's plan another trip that looks like it's going to be same sort of terrain, not a lot of ups and downs. That's, you can almost develop that pattern if you have multiple entries like that, where it's like, okay, all the ones that we rated 5 stars out of 5 stars or whatever our rating system is, all of the ones we rated 5 stars out of 5 stars say that they were hard packed dirt and minimal elevation gain.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that we apparently like. Or maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're the ones that's like, oh, I had huge peaks and then super low valleys, and we loved that one. And maybe every time you mark one as a 5 out of 5, maybe it's high peaks and low valleys. Where maybe you are the type of person that likes that elevation gain. Yeah. Now you've got a record and you can go back and look at that.
We like to call that bullshit, but...
We like to call it bullshit because it is bullshit because I hate it.
Shawn, I was going to say, you kind of gave yourself told everybody a tell of yours when you said it was hard-packed dirt, no sand, and fairly level. Like, that's like Shawn's sweet spot.
I know, I said it multiple times.
Sean's sweet spot on the trail.
It is my sweet spot. I want a nice, wide, groomed trail with no elevation gain.
He wants it to look like people have been out there, but he doesn't want to see anybody out there.
I would like to create the illusion of elevation gain by holding my camera in such a way that makes it look like the mountains are steep.
Right, okay, gotcha.
That's what I would like. I would like to tell people that we worked really hard for this amazing view, when really you could have rolled up and walked a quarter mile.
Right. Yeah, you definitely you sold yourself out there, buddy.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
I like a little bit of sand. I mean,
a little bit.
A little.
We got into too much this year.
So anyway, I kind of went on a little tangent there, but like, those are your methods. Now let's talk about, like, what do we recommend people keep track of? Like, what are the things that you, Mike, wish we would have kept track of in this spreadsheet or journal or whatever?
So the one thing that came to mind when you were on your little tangent there was like this past trip, it was raining, so I really didn't get to try it, but I'm really hoping I get to try it again in the future. Like, we found I've always heard, as a scout back in the days, and in my adult life, doing some outdoorsy, like, tours, that I believe it's white birch. I don't remember if it's white or yellow, but I'm pretty sure what we found in the woods was white birch. And that if you are in a pinch and need a fire starter, white birch will, just the bark, whether it's wet or dry, will catch on fire. And I tested that, and it worked. Like, I was able to.
People were right.
The people were right. They weren't just feeding me a bunch of bullshit. I was always just
chalk one up for the internet.
Right. I was like, I'm gonna try this. Granted, like, it's raining, and like, we got to a little dry. Like, it wasn't raining so bad. I was like, okay, I can find some dry wood. It was all too wet to actually catch fire, but the bark went up no problem. So I was like, okay. Like, I would like to start an actual fire with it, just using that as the fire starting method. But like, I would like to, like, note that, like, okay, on this day, like, I tried something new. I went out of my comfort zone of, like, hey, we've got a fire starter in our backpack. In a pinch, like, if you run out of fire starter, or your fire starter is soaked and won't light, there's options out there, like, and I tried it. So I was happy about that.
Okay, so bringing it back to journaling.
Well, I was going to say, I wish I would have journaled that. It's in my mind, but I'll forget that next year.
Okay, so would you say what I am hearing you say? Let me put it that way. What I am hearing you say is that's like a fun personal story that you wanted to share about that trip.
I could have said
that
that.
you want to remember.
Yeah, I could have said it that way. Yeah.
Which, so I mean, like, well, so like you're talking about things, so you would incorporate things like, I'm going to take from my personal experience. So in
Okay.
that same category, I went and stripped down to my skivvies and jumped in Lake Superior.
And immediately got a leg cramp.
And immediately got a leg cramp and thought I was going to have to call the lifeguard, which was not on duty. But that sort of stuff, right? Like personal, like
Yes.
these are things, or we were on one. I'm trying to remember. This was our most recent one where we were on, I believe it was the North Country Trail.
Mm-hmm.
We came across that giant tree that was like the biggest tree
Oh, yeah.
in. See, now I'm forgetting. I wish I had it journaled down because
Right.
I don't remember.
I don't remember if
It was
it's
like the biggest or oldest tree in Tequamanon National Park. I don't even
or
remember.
in Michigan or it like whatever.
Or
Yeah.
something, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have it written down, so I'm not going to be able to remember. I have a picture of it somewhere, and I took a picture of the plaque, so I can go back and look at it. But I would incorporate all of those things
Mm-hmm.
into that story that you're talking about. Like, so you're saying, like, okay, this is something from my childhood that I had always heard.
Yeah.
Turns out I got a chance in real life to try it on such and such date, and this is where I was when I tried it, and it worked.
Right.
I think all that stuff would be super great to write down. Like, just from a truly, in the purest sense of it, journaling
Mm-hmm.
sense, you're not going to remember forever. Even though you're going to think to yourself, I'm never going to forget this. This was great, or this was awful, or this was this, or this was that,
Right.
and I'm never going to forget this. You're not going to forget the big picture of it, probably, but the like details that you want to remember,
absolutely,
you're going to forget. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, I was just trying to come up with something like other than like the date. Like obviously you're gonna want to keep track of your date, your location, the weather, how many miles, those types of things that are gonna
Yep.
be in there. But like something that like I guess something that's gonna like bring you back to that moment is like one of those like personal stories, one of those little additives
Yeah.
that's gonna do it for you.
Well, and honestly, I mean, not to gloss over either, like your date, time, distance, weather. Like, I know we're kind of glossing over that sort of stuff, but
It's
like,
important.
I feel like that's important stuff to put. Like, eventually, I'm going to want to remember, like, I might remember, this last trip, which we keep shitting on because it rained for 2 days and it was freezing cold. Like, you and I keep shitting on
but
that.
It's an experience.
It is an experience, and I'm never going to forget that time that you and I went hiking, and it was 50 degrees and rained for 2 days, and we thought it was going to be the middle of August, so we thought it was going to be 80 degrees outside, and it was going to be nice and warm, and we were going to have a great time, and we packed tank tops and short shorts, not literally, but I'm never going to forget that happened. I am going to forget probably where we were, what year that happened.
Yep.
Like, what was the situation around that? And like, how did we get out of it? And did we quit that time or did we finish it? Like, some of that stuff, those details are going to be lost to time. And maybe while it's kind of fresh in my memory, maybe I should write it in this new journal.
I was just going to say, we should probably make an attempt to get together and actually put some of our trips in there just so it's in there.
And I'll have to maybe like notate it like this was put in retroactively and then just continue from there.
Not to kind of make your gift mine too, but
well, in all fairness, when she gave it to me, she said, "This is for you and Mike when you go on hikes."
Okay.
So, so I guess let me read down the list. This is this is made by not a sponsor. A company called Journals Unlimited, apparently from Bay City, Michigan.
No shit.
That's what it says at the bottom. So, shout out to them. Love your book. Not a sponsor, but so let me just read down what it has on their like
Love your
little
city.
cheat sheet. Right. So this has got city and state, date, who you hiked with, which I think is a good one to put down. Like you
Yeah.
and I typically hike with each other, but we've already been in talks about incorporating other people into
Right.
our little hiking group. So I feel like that would be a good one to write down. It's also got location. So I think instead of just city and state, that would be like your
Manistee
you
River
know,
Trail or North
Manistee
Country
River
Trail
Trail or North Country Trail or
or
whatever.
Tequamanon River area,
Um,
whatever. Yeah.
and then it's got route/trails. So I would assume in there you'd
Oh,
put things like we took the North Loop
right.
to the Blue Line or whatever.
Yep.
Then it does have a spot for weather. It's got trip duration. I assume that means time, but it could also mean distance. Then it's got multiple lines where you can put altitudes, elevations, conditions, etc. Hard packed dirt, not a lot of elevation gain, minimal sand.
Right. There it is.
Then this is one line that I super like. It's got multiple lines where you can put sightings and terrain. And then it's got in parentheses suggestions, wildlife, nature, scenic views, etc.
Isn't it all nature?
It's all nature.
Okay.
I don't think that's what it means. I think it means like I saw a birch tree,
Oh,
or
okay. Okay. I'm
like
just
nature.
like,
I was out in nature. There was a cactus. There
right.
was a scorpion, or whatever. But we've talked about before how we stop during our hikes for you come to this scenic overlook, or you're walking along. When we were up in where were we? Pictured Rocks National Lake Shore, and we went to we stopped and I think we took our packs off even and did a little detour up to Log Slide. Is it Log
Yep.
Slide? Is that what that was called?
Yep.
That was super cool. Like
Yeah.
I am super pumped that we took that minor detour up to that and hung out and watched that.
I'm also more pumped that we both had it in our mind to not go down the log slide.
I know, I kind of really wanted to go down. The sign said don't, because it was very hard to get back up.
Said something like it takes 30 seconds to get down. It takes upwards of 4 hours to get back up.
Yeah.
Something like
Yep.
that. Yeah.
So I have been to that separately from when you and I hiked to it. I was up in the UP for work and took a little detour to have a lunch break because I was in the area and went there. And I talked to some people that had just finished hiking up it, red in the face, panting. Never again, I believe, was the comment that I got.
But it's a story.
But it's a story. Okay, so back to journaling.
Yep, sorry.
So then the next thing that's on this little book that I've got is gear, food and beverages. So I think it's wanting you to outline, what kind of gear did you have? What'd you eat and drink?
I think that's, you brought that up earlier, and I'm still kind of, my mind's just kind of there. It's just like, what a wonderful idea. What a great idea is just keeping tabs on either what gear you had, but how it performed and what you liked and didn't like and all that stuff. That's such a good idea. I never thought of that.
Okay, but even take it one step further and in kind of the totally opposite direction. You and I have made no secret about the fact that you and I like to take booze when we go out onto the trail.
Yeah.
We probably should be keeping better track of what booze worked good at room temperature and what booze didn't work good at room temperature.
Yeah.
Drink responsibly, everybody. Don't do it. Don't get yourself into dangerous territory. But, if you're going to take booze,
we
make a note of which ones you liked and which ones you didn't.
Right. Yeah, that's a valid point too, because we've always said we're gonna keep I think I do have a spreadsheet on that. I don't think it's
I have a spreadsheet. Right, we have a spreadsheet, but we don't keep up on it.
It's true. That's very true. Yeah.
We don't. I mean, it was a great idea when we started.
I was probably drinking when I started it.
Probably. Well, yeah. I mean, true. The next line in here is physically and emotionally I felt, which kind of goes back to our previous episode about, mental health aspects of or benefits of hiking. I think that's a great one to put. I
Yeah,
think,
absolutely.
especially, not to keep poo-pooing on the hiking in the rain, but certainly when we were hiking in the rain, my answer to that would be different than when it was like 75 and sunny.
Absolutely. Now, and I think maybe while we were hiking in the rain, I might have uttered those words never again. I mean,
Right.
to be completely honest, now looking back on it, I think I just need to make some gear choice changes.
I mean,
Like,
to be transparent with the listener, when Mike and I were hiking in the rain multiple times, we had to talk each other out of quitting
yeah,
and calling for a ride.
yeah, because there was a road like 100 yards from us.
Yep. Yep. We were so soaked that we crossed a road at one point.
Mhm.
People slammed on their brakes. Very nice people from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan slammed on their brakes and backed up, rolled down the window, and asked if we needed assistance because I can only imagine
Oh yeah, we had to
how
look.
drowned we were. Soaked
Yeah,
through and through in the middle of August in 50-degree weather, which I agree, 50-degree is not like terrible. I'm not saying that
right.
50-degree is the worst weather you can have. I mean, especially it was what, like a high of 12 today or some nonsense.
Right.
So I get it. 50 degrees is not the worst, but when you are soaked to the bone and you planned your trip assuming it would be in the 70s and 80s, 50 degrees is hard.
Right. I mean, a small caveat to that is that it did say it was going to rain. We did plan for rain. When we left, it said it was going to rain, I think, for
For like an
half of a day.
hour. I thought it
Yeah.
was like an hour.
And then it was like gonna be all sunshine and rainbows. And then it turned into just 2 days of rain. And
Yeah.
then the last day was finally sunny and we are drying out. But
Yeah.
but
The first day was gorgeous. The first day was like perfect hiking
oh
weather,
yeah.
and we set off, and it's like, oh, this is going to be the best trip. Anyway, that's getting a little off topic, but so, and then the last line in here is overall rating for your trip.
Four
So those are
stars
the
would recommend.
right, would recommend, right, exactly. But so those are the things in the actual printed journal I have. I think they're all great.
That's perfect because it even incorporates the gear thing. And
Yeah,
like I said, I've never been a creative writer. I've never really put any forethought of like how would I want to write this down to remember it in the future? Because like I'm that dumbass kid in school is just like it was fun. I liked it. Um, that's all I'm gonna do.
right,
Like, and
right,
it's but like that gives you kind of like a little bit of a guide, and then to incorporate the gear thing, the nerd is coming out in me and just be like, I've got the Alps Mountaineering Coda 1, no leaks, it rained for 2 days. Like,
yeah. Okay, but the no leaks thing, like, I think that's legit. I think we
yeah,
should be notating stuff like that.
yeah. Your tent pole broke. So like what did we do to
Hmm.
remedy that? Like we
Yep,
had some duct tape and a stick or whatever, and
yep,
that worked fine. Like, okay, these are things to know in the future that it works and you can do it, and also to remember in the future, like 20 or 30 years down the road, like, oh yeah, like freaking
right.
tent pole broke.
Well, or even 20 to 30 years down the road, like I don't assume you and I are going to stop doing this anytime soon. When we
Yeah.
started out, it was like we're going to do this one time and see how
See
it
see how
goes.
it goes. Yeah.
That's how we started out. And I would assume a lot of people start out that way, where you're not necessarily committing to a 30-year hobby, right? You're
Right.
going to say like, let me go try this one time and see how it goes. Maybe you have a good experience that first time, so you do it again. Well, now suddenly you're Mike and Shawn, and we're 5 years in, and we didn't keep track of all this sort of stuff that I wish we would have kept track of.
Yeah.
But okay, so then fast forward another 15 years from now or 20 years from now, it might be funny to have some stuff written down to look back and be like, oh, can you imagine we started out with single person tents?
Oh,
Or
right.
Like we started out with that camp stove, like, oh my gosh, we were such amateurs. You know, like
Right.
that sort of stuff might be fun to have written down somewhere.
Right, where we're raving and like we rave about like most of our gear these days. Like we have some that we're just like, but most of
Right.
it is just like, yeah, I actually love this and the weight and like all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Or even
like
like the dehydrated meals we take. Like full disclosure, Mike and I have not tried every brand of dehydrated food
right,
or backpacking meal that's out there. And we sit here and rant and rave about like, I just Mike likes Mountain House and I like Backpackers Pantry, and that's like where our comfort zone is. There might be people, we might come across a brand that's like, oh my god, this is like gourmet food.
right.
I would never go back to that. Sorry if you're listening, Backpackers Pantry or Mountain
No, that
House,
was right. I would
but
never,
like,
yeah,
I'm never going back to that shit again.
right,
You know, like it would be funny to know that stuff, to be able
right.
to look at it and,
Like,
you know,
I
just
mean, to
reminisce.
this day, like I don't know, I still like me some Mountain House creamy macaroni and cheese. Like,
You like your mac and cheese and you like your biscuits and gravy. I
yep,
mean,
yep, and my chicken Alfredo.
and your chicken Alfredo. Right. Mike is a very predictable,
Oh yeah. Hey,
but
but it works. And
well, that's the thing. We'll get what you like.
yep,
Why deviate from it if you're going to be out there miserable?
not miserable. I'm just hungry.
Well, no. I mean, like if you got, let's pretend you got one that you didn't
Oh,
like.
right.
You
Yeah,
know,
fair.
why deviate from the ones that you know you like when
Yeah.
you could get one that you don't know if you like, and now you're going hungry.
Well, and people may not have listened to like the first episodes about the food and all that stuff. I'm just a meat and potatoes, no veggies, like very picky eater. So if you have kids or you know a child, if they're at the age of like 6 to 8 years old, like that's my diet.
Yeah.
Nuggets and macaroni and cheese. Perfect. Um, so that's if I can find something that's if there was a thing that was just like plain rice or like a seasoned rice without any veggies in it and some steak, like Mountain House, if you're listening, make something like that. So, but
They might make something like that. There might be a different brand that
there
makes
might
something
be a
like
different
that.
brand that makes something. I mean, realistically, I am not the norm. Most people will tolerate some veggies or whatever. So they'll throw some carrots or some celery or whatever in their green crap that I don't know what it's called. And most people are okay with that. Turns out I am not so much. So
Yeah.
um, I'm not going to ask them to cater to me specifically unless they want to. I could create some child friendly dishes with Mountain House or whoever. So contact me at ShawnMikeHike.com.
Shameless self promotion.
Right. I am willing to put myself out there for a cause.
Right. So, and I guess another way you could journal too. So this is kind of a way that Mike and I are currently journaling. I don't love this way, but like this is another way. There's, have you ever heard of like photo journaling?
Hmm.
So one of the things you can do, like with this like printed out journal that I have, one of the tips that I read online when I was reading about like actually journaling your hiking, one of the tips that the quote unquote the internet
Hmm.
recommends you do if you're actually doing like the printed book version of journaling is they're like get some photos from your trip, actually print it out and paste them into your book, or actually like clip on a map of your trip or clip on something like that. Keep that in the book with your stuff. So that is an option.
That's
Or
almost like turning it into like a journaling slash
almost like a
scrapbook.
scrapbook.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
almost like scrapbooking.
Yep.
However, another way you can do it, same sort of concept, but like you can just, so again, we all take our phones with us everywhere because everybody on the planet is addicted to your smartphone. One of the ways that you can record things is just taking a photo journal of your trip. Now, what I don't like about just photo journaling and like digital photo journaling,
Hmm.
yes, it tells us where we were. You and I, Mike, we were talking about like, I can't remember, 20 years from now, am I going to remember where I was when it was raining? Well,
Right.
it turns out I can look back into my iCloud photos and be like, okay, this was our hiking trip and we're
Yep.
wearing rain gear.
And everything's wet.
Everything's wet. This must be the trip. But it doesn't really let you add notes in there along with it. So yeah, you've got pictures
True.
of all your stuff, but it doesn't let you, in the current phone situation that I've got going on right now,
Right.
doesn't really let you, okay, yeah, you took a picture and yeah, you can remember it, but like I don't have a way to add notes to it.
There's no notes, there's no caption, there's no
I don't have a way to say like, okay, see this rain jacket in this photo? This rain jacket sucks, never buy this brand again.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like all the more reason again to keep, I understand people take photos with their phone and I think that that's going to help them remember things forever. And it does, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't tell you the whole story.
Right.
So I am not personally putting my stamp of recommendation on doing just taking pictures as your way to remember all the details about your trip. I don't think it provides the full story.
Right. Yeah. Just a picture, or just, I mean, really the combo of the two works. I think the description or the physical, like, verbal journaling is the better way to go if you're only going to do one. Or you could, do your verbal whatever, write down journaling, and then you could say see photos in whatever from these
Sure.
dates or
Yeah,
whatever.
you could do that. Sure. I
So,
mean, that'd be an option.
but
Yeah.
like, so and tons of options out there. But
I am excited to start using this like write down journal. I think that is going
absolutely.
to be the way to go. I think that will. My only concern, and this is why I'm a freaking tech gadgety guy and love technology, is my concern is, okay, we're going to put everything in this book, and then what if the house burns down? Like it is your
Well,
like.
I was gonna say also it's heavy, and you're not gonna take it with you. So,
That's a good point. You're absolutely right. I am not going to take it out on the trail with me. Like it is big and heavy enough that I'm not putting it in my backpack.
well, I mean, because heaven forbid, like this, it's a book. If you have it in your
Yep.
pack, and your pack gets soaked or ruined or whatever,
True.
your
Yep.
book's ruined too. So my idea was, before we started recording this, was take a picture of the page so you know the stuff you want to put in there. Put those notes on your phone, and then take it back and put that in I don't know, and then when it's at home, if your house burns down, put it in a fireproof safe. Like,
I know. What I actually think I might do is I might use the actual book to be like what it's meant to be, is an actual book, an actual log of our trip. And then I think when I fill out a page, I'm probably going to take a picture of that page and put it in the cloud,
yeah,
just so that I have like a backup scanned quote unquote copy of it
yeah, that's not a
in
bad
the
idea.
cloud somewhere, just in case. I could always, rewrite it, or I'd have a reference to it.
I mean, they are memories frozen in time, so.
They are memories frozen in time, people. But yeah, I mean, I guess all of that to say, if I could sum up this conversation, just to reiterate what I said at the beginning of this episode, do as we recommend and not as we have done. Like, I really do,
Yeah.
looking over the last 5 years, I wish we had done a better job at keeping track of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I think we can kind of go back and like piecemeal it back together fairly accurately.
I look forward
But
to
I'm
trying.
already forgetting stuff. Yeah.
I look forward to trying.
Right.
The gear stuff, I already, we've gone through how many sleeping pads and how many,
Well, exactly.
like, so, yeah. Most of the gear we know, but some of the gear is going to be a little bit different. So I look forward to going back in that challenge and seeing what we remember. It's better to do it now than 5 years out from now. So,
for sure. Right.
yeah.
Well, and if you don't know, you don't know. So like, hopefully by us even mentioning this, hopefully this will help somebody that is new to this think it is worthwhile to do from the very beginning, or darn near the very beginning.
Absolutely.
Versus waiting as long as we have waited and then wishing we had.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this whole episode, I've just kind of been thinking, like, man, I really wish we would have thought that it was like a thing. Like, I never even thought to like keep track of stuff. In my everyday life, like, I just don't think to keep track of shit, other than the
No, I know.
spreadsheets that I do keep track of.
Well, and the things that we kept track of, it's like the nerdy stuff. It's like, oh, we did this mile marker to this mile marker, and it
Right.
was this many miles, and like that stuff's important. Don't get me wrong.
The
Like, I'm
percentage
glad
of
we
our
kept track
trips
of
has been
that.
on this percentage is on the North Country Trail, and this
Right.
percentage, like, I've got pie charts, and I
I got
know.
this pivot table going, and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
I
Right,
Yep.
nerd.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so that's what I got. Do you have anything else before we wrap up?
No, I just, like I said, I keep reiterating. If you feel like it's not necessary and you don't think you're gonna enjoy journaling, give it a shot, because I really wish that we would have started it in the past. So, um,
Yeah,
but yeah. But
yeah.
if you have other methods that we haven't mentioned, or like something that works for you too, like how you remember where and when and what gear and all that stuff, let us know. We're happy to hear it.
Or is there like a category that Mike and I
Yeah.
haven't thought of that you do journal and has been handy, or you're super glad you did? Because clearly Mike and I had a blind spot to the whole journaling thing to begin with. There are probably things that people journal about regarding backpacking that we haven't even hasn't crossed our minds even.
Oh
So
yeah,
if
for
you
sure.
got a category or something that you keep in your journal that we haven't thought of, I am asking you on a personal level, please share so that I can start keeping
Right,
track on
right,
that.
right. We're new to this journaling thing. We need ideas,
Right.
and all of them.
So yeah, if you have any of those ideas, you can send those to us in our email, which is ShawnMikeHike@gmail.com, or you can send them to us via social media. We're on all the major socials at Shawn Mike Hike, or directly on our website, ShawnMikeHike.com. If you've enjoyed this episode or any episode, please share them with a friend. It certainly helps. And until next time,
Go take a
go take a
hike
hike.
and journal it.
There you go. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a couple
Yep.
weeks.
Thanks.